Hello, geeks, freaks, and all those unique. This is EmceeFrodis, and we're almost there. Supernatural is ending its epic 15-season run on Thursday. But before that happens, I want to look back at the road so far. There have been so many memorable episodes in the over 300 that there have been. With that many, it's impossible to talk about them all. But I wanted to focus on 15 of my favorites that I always go back to. So here are some of my favorite episodes of Supernatural. Number 15. Season 13, Episode 10, Wayward Sisters. As much as I love Supernatural, it's always had a problem with female characters. They would introduce recurring women in the show only to quickly remove them when the fan reaction was poor. One of the strongest elements in the later seasons is the fact that the writers realized if they wanted the audience to react favorably to women was to make it very clear that the women were not there to be romantic interests for the boys. This is no more evident than with Jodie Mills, one of the most frequent guest stars of the show. She first appears in season 5 and has appeared in every season since. The closest thing she had to romance with any of the characters is some ship tease between her and Bobby before his death. She served as more of a mother figure towards Sam and Dean. Jodie, as a mother figure, was enhanced when she became guardian to Castiel's vessel's daughter, Claire Novak, and former vampire Alex. Along with Donna Haskam, these characters would serve as the core of the proposed Supernatural spin-off Wayward Sisters, and this episode served as a backdoor pilot to it. The plot has Jodie, Claire, Alex, and Donna searching for Sam and Dean, who have gone missing, with the help from Patience Turner, who had been introduced in the previous episode of Supernatural, and the mysterious Kaya. Despite being a backdoor pilot, this episode fits in well with Supernatural's ongoing storyline, unlike the other attempt. It also uses the resources the show had, with the Mills family serving as the core. Patience was an interesting addition that would have been great for Wayward Sisters. This episode also creates a bond between Claire and Kaya that was realistic and fantastic to see. The only thing that brings this episode down in my estimation is my disappointment that it wasn't picked up as a series. I was really looking forward to Wayward Sisters. With Supernatural winding down when it was made, I really think that they should have gone somewhere with it. At least the show eventually wrapped up the plot, even if it was very abbreviated. Number 14, Season 13, Episode 18, Bring 'Em Back Alive. Like a lot of fans, I've got particular feelings about the so-called Buck Lemming episodes. For me, this episode falls under the broken clock rule. I also have a personal connection with it. It aired when I was at 221BCon, and I was able to watch it with friends of mine, something I rarely get to do with Supernatural. To this day, something from it remains a running gag for us. This episode has Dean and Ketch going into Apocalypse World to find Mary and Jack, instead coming across Apocalypse World Charlie and trying to rescue her. Meanwhile, Sam and Castiel try to mend a traumatized Gabriel. I am such a fan of Gabriel, which you'll find out later on this list. And no one believed he was dead. When season 13 came around, it was so great to see him back finally. Both of the plots in this episode work so well. It's also really nice to see Sam and Castiel working together, since normally Castiel is going along with Dean, and I like when they shake things up. But the headline is both Charlie and Gabriel coming back, and they do it in a great way. While we've seen them both this season, this is really bringing them back into the fold. I especially loved seeing Gabriel take his power back and finally flashing his wings. And remember, porn stars. They were porn stars, Sam. Number 13, Season 10, Episode 5, Fanfiction. Loving this episode is admitting to loving Supernatural as a whole, as this episode is such a love letter to the series, albeit in a very playful way. This is the 200th episode of the series, and you do know you're getting something special when you watch it. It had been a while since we'd seen anything from the fictional book series Supernatural. More on that later. And this episode was such a ridiculous way to bring things back in. I think Supernatural has always had fun playing with their fan base. Sometimes it can feel slightly mean-spirited, like with the portrayal of Becky, but this episode manages to find the line. In this episode, Sam and Dean are investigating the disappearance of a high school drama teacher, only to find out she's overseeing the production of a musical based on the Supernatural books. Sam and Dean have to see fictionalized versions of themselves and their friends as filtered through the lens of the intense director and writer, Marie. I am a sucker for the meta episodes of Supernatural and the humorous episodes, so this one really speaks to me. I love the relationship that Dean is able to forge with Marie. Despite him thinking the show was stupid, he gains an insight into himself by seeing himself through Marie. While this episode is a great bit of fun, The thing that does bring it down is that it hits a lot of the same notes we've seen in the previous episodes about the Supernatural book series. And one of the ongoing problems I have with that plot point is the characters are envisioned exactly as they are in the television series, despite it being a book. Judging from the covers of the books, it really should not be that way. Plus, if you look at any pre-movie Harry Potter art, you'll see the way people visualize books is vastly different depending on the person. But it's all in good fun, just like this episode. Number 12, Season 14, Episode 13, Lebanon. For the 300th episode of the series, Supernatural also had to do something special, but in a completely different way. They did this by bringing back the person fans have been asking for since his character's death in Season 2. Jeffrey Dean Morgan returns as patriarch of the Winchester family, John. This episode has Dean and Sam take on the ghost of John Wayne Gacy, after they get their hands on a pearl that can grant their greatest wish. Needing to get rid of the Michael that's inhabiting his body, Dean makes the wish. Only it brings John Winchester from 2003, but pulling him from time creates ripples. Like fanfiction, this episode is a celebration of the show. But instead of being a ridiculous meta look at the show itself, it turns inwards onto the emotional celebration of the Winchester family. This is what I like to call a crying episode. There is so much stuff that will get you somewhere between a little misty to outright sobbing. The Winchesters have gone through so much in 14 years on the show and 36 years in universe, it's such a relief to see them have one day together. Both Sam and Dean have so many unresolved issues with John that there's a deep catharsis at seeing them finally talk to one another. We also get to see John and Mary together for the first time ever. We also get to see a deeper side of John, outside of Daddy Drill Sergeant. The biggest failing of this episode is that they didn't know if they were going to be able to get Jeffrey Dean Morgan, so originally they had another episode slated, and that was where the John Wayne Gacy plot came from. It feels like there are two episodes that are kind of smashed together and they don't really mesh perfectly, but it's worth it getting to see the Winchester boys have just one happy family dinner. Number 11, Season 5, Episode 16, Dark Side of the Moon. If there is any episode of the series that I would call high concept, it would be this one. There are many experimental episodes, but this one is special. It takes a much more serious tone and reveals a lot about Dean and Sam as characters. Dean and Sam are killed by two hunters and find themselves in heaven. Before he resurrects them, Castiel wants them to search through heaven for God. They find that heaven is a road of their best memories. I really like myth arc episodes, and this episode is the first time we got a good idea as to what heaven was like. Not only do we get mythology on how heaven works, but we get an insight into the Winchester boys, how Dean treasures his family while Sam has a stubborn independent streak. It was also great to see Chad Lindbergh's Ash once again, as I think they killed him off far too soon. This is one of the darker moments of the season, as Sam and Dean find out that God isn't going to come to help them, and Dean abandons the Samulet. Dean isn't someone who often has hope, and this was him giving up on the small bit of hope he did have. This episode tells us that things are just going to keep getting worse as the season goes on. Number 10, Season 5, Episode 4, The End. If you're going to do a show like Supernatural, you've got to have a bad alternate reality at some point. It's always a fun change of pace to see the characters in a terrible world they shouldn't be in. This episode has Dean sent to the far future of 2014, where Lucifer has taken over the world and a small group, led by a future Dean, fights against him. Our version of Dean learns about the horrible fates that lay before him and his allies. There's just so much to love about this episode. First of all, we get two Deans for the price of one. Seeing the future version of Castiel as a drugged-out, hedonistic wreck is so fun. There's even proof that Supernatural has a gift for everything by summing up early 2020. But all of that is just the sprinkles on the sundae. What's really important about this episode is the journey that Dean goes through. I'm an avowed Dean girl, and it's very clear in this episode what he's struggling with. Initially, he feels he should stay away from Sam because of Sam's reluctance to hunt. He's defiant against the angels. Going into the future shows him where these paths will lead him. Of course, since he's Dean, the point he grabs onto is that he and Sam have to stick together. This is the running theme throughout the series. We also see Dean's stubbornness to defy the inevitable. Zachariah sends Dean to the future to show him he has no choice but to say yes to Michael. Dean refuses to learn that lesson, something that will be a defining characteristic of him. It's no wonder that it will be him who names his group Team Free Will in only a few episodes. Number 9, Season 6, Episode 15, The French Mistake. I feel like when they decided to do this episode, they said to themselves, we already wrote the adventures of the Winchesters into the show as a fictional book series. How can we take this one step further? This episode pretty much says that there's nowhere Supernatural won't go. In the midst of the angelic civil war, Balthazar sends Sam and Dean into an alternate reality in order to protect them from an angelic hitman named Virgil. This alternate universe is a world in which Sam and Dean are fictional characters played by Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles in a show called Supernatural. This episode doesn't need to exist. It plays very little into the plot of the season. It simply exists to be something ridiculous, and that's what makes it brilliant. Supernatural is unique in that it's a show that will take risks like this. This is normally the kind of thing you'll only get in someone's fanfic, but Supernatural is willing to take that jump within their own canon. This allows them to poke fun of themselves as a show, as actors and creators, in a way that they couldn't with things like the Chuck Shirley ongoing storyline. There's such a self-awareness in everyone about how they think their characters would react to them as real people, or at least highly parodied versions of themselves. And even that is something you don't get all of the time, people willing to make fun of themselves. There is so much fun to have with Genevieve Padalecki appearing as herself, and Dean amazed that Sam would marry fake Ruby, and Misha appearing as a douchey, sweater-wearing version of himself. The death of Eric Kripke is so hilariously over the top. This episode is a great litmus test to get someone into Supernatural. If you think they're going to be more attracted to the humorous episodes, you do not get more ridiculous than this one. Well, that might not be true, but we'll get to that. Number 8. Season 4, Episode 3, In the Beginning. For the character who kicked the main plot of the show off, we knew very little about Mary Winchester for the longest time. She was the sainted mother with absolutely no flaws. We had to have a time where we found out more about her. That's this episode. Castiel sends Dean to 1973. There, Dean meets a younger version of his father. He also meets his mother and finds out she was a hunter, from a family of hunters. From there, Dean finds out the truth behind the events that tore his family apart. While I do love episodes that build the mythology of the world, this episode builds the mythology of the Winchester family. As I said, we knew next to nothing about Mary as the person before this. Here we find out just how much she has in common with her sons. Honestly, it makes sense. When the show first began, it seemed to be a random event that killed Mary. But as the show delved into the apocalyptic lore, it made more sense for Dean and Sam to have a hunter pedigree. What starts off here will pay off in future seasons, with The Song Remains the Same, Season 6, and onwards into the proper introduction of Mary. The show is also self-aware enough to acknowledge the Back to the Future of it all. While the episode does have some cheeky winks towards it, it's not a parody of it. The casting of young John and Mary is wonderful. In particular, Amy Gumenick does a fantastic job of portraying Mary as a young woman who wants to get away from the responsibilities of her life. Someone who is burdened yet vulnerable. It's a quality we see over and over again in her sons, in particular Sam, which makes her interacting with Dean all the more interesting. This episode changes everything we knew about Dean and Sam's family, and we'll have echoes of that from here on out. And from one landmark episode to another, 7. Season 4, Episode 1, Lazarus Rising. This episode shatters everything we knew about Supernatural. There's everything before Lazarus Rising and everything after. For a lot of people, this is where the show truly started for them. Having been dragged to hell in the previous season, this episode starts with Dean crawling out of his grave, not knowing what brought him back. Meeting up with Bobby and Sam, Dean has to discover how he escaped from the pit. The appearance of the angel Castiel reveals the truth. Angels and Castiel in particular are such an indelible part of the Supernatural lore. It's amazing to remember that it wasn't until the first episode of Season 4 that they appeared. This episode is filled with such incredible visuals, from Dean crawling out of his grave and seeing the wreckage around him, to Pamela's eyes burning out, and most famously, Castiel's explosive entrance. This episode starts off what will be a 2-season-long arc that changes everything we know about the show. It's no longer just two brothers going around hunting monsters. It's an epic story of good versus evil. Castiel changes the dynamic of everything as his bond with Dean starts here and will continue until the very end of the series. And no, I'm still not over despair. Number 6, Season 2, Episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be. Like with The Bad Future, an alternate timeline is a staple of fantasy, and it's not a surprise that Supernatural should have delved into that a time or two. This episode is a wonderful example of that trope. When Dean and Sam hunt a djinn, Dean ends up in a world where he got everything he wanted. His mother is alive, the family never had to hunt or kill her, he's with a beautiful woman, and Sam is engaged to Jessica. But Dean can't shake the feeling that not everything is right, especially when he sees vision of a woman in trouble, and he and Sam aren't very close. I think I've made it very clear already that I'm a Dean girl, and this episode is everything you wanted to know about Dean Winchester in 45 minutes. It's one of our earliest looks into his psyche, and it forms a lot of his character going forward. Up until this point, Dean has been dedicated to the life of hunting, and we see that deep down that's actually not the life he wants. He does wish that he could have a normal existence, but he'll always come back to hunting because it's not just what he does, it's who he is. One of the most interesting aspects of this alternate timeline is that Sam and Dean's relationship is nowhere near as close as it is in the real world. While everything's supposed to be idyllic for Dean, he can't accept that he and Sam don't have the same closeness. While on the surface, having their mother back and not having the burden of hunting may seem like a blessing, not having that bond with Sam is the breaking point for Dean, and something he's desperate to get back. Dean's need for his brother foreshadows the price he'll pay in the next episode, which sets up the next season and arguably the rest of the show. Number 5, Season 4, Episode 18, The Monster at the End of This Book. This episode has a special place in my heart. This was the very first episode of Supernatural I ever saw. Someone had mentioned it on some online forum, and I was intrigued by the concept, even though I'd never seen the show. I knew enough about it that I felt comfortable jumping in at this point, and, well, here we are now. While investigating a case, Sam and Dean find out about a book series called Supernatural. They're disturbed to find out this series chronicles their own lives. They track down the author, a man named Chuck Shirley. Chuck is revealed to be a prophet of the Lord, and the books he's writing are the Winchester Gospels. I think seeing this episode before any other might be a large reason why I like the meta episodes so much. This one is not disappointing in that at all. It feels organic the way they worked Chuck's writing into the mythology of the series. Nothing about Chuck being a prophet who receives visions about the Winchesters doesn't make sense. Like the French Mistake, this episode allows the writers to poke fun at the series as a whole. Rob Benedict is fantastic as scruffy loser writer Chuck. Later on, we'll see his amazing range as we get to know Chuck a little bit more. While this seems like a light and fun episode, it sets up many major elements that will play into the series until the very end. I can't say this is a bad episode for me to come in on because it does indelibly change the course of Supernatural, and I think for the better. It's also great they were able to poke fun at things like bugs and Route 66. Number 4, Season 3, Episode 11, Mystery Spot. This episode has so many things going for it. It's got my boy Gabriel in it, it's a fountain of memes, but I think the biggest thing going for it is that it shows us who Sam is. Sam wakes up to Heat of the Moment by Asia, he and Dean go to investigate a place called the Mystery Spot, Dean dies, and Sam wakes up to Heat of the Moment by Asia over and over and over again, over 100 times. So many of the episodes I've talked about have focused on Dean's character, but this one is entirely Sam. While it's incredibly funny and so many Tumblr jokes have come from it, when you get down to it, that's what it's about. Sam. This episode is about Gabriel as the trickster teaching Sam how Dean is his weakness and that Sam has to learn to let Dean go. And as the season grows closer to an end, it's a lesson that Sam needs to learn. This is also the first sign that we have the trickster is more than we think he is. He's got a personal interest in Sam and Dean, something that will become very important later on. Jared Padalecki does a great job with what he needs to do in this episode. The way Sam starts to unhinge as he goes through Tuesday after Tuesday is a stark contrast to his single-minded determination to find the trickster once the loop has ended. While the trickster's first appearance was good, it was this episode that really cemented him as a character and would bring us to our next spot. Number 3, Season 5, Episode 8, Changing Channels. I like Gabriel, okay? Richard Speight Jr. is such a joy to have on the show, and I have fun with every single episode he's in. This is, without a doubt, my favorite outing with him. On a random case, Sam and Dean find themselves within the world of television. They are forced to act out roles in medical dramas, police procedurals, game shows, and commercials, all on the whim of the trickster, but his purpose is much larger than creating chaos. This is really a sequel to Mystery Spot, which is why I have to have both episodes on the list. While last time the trickster was trying to persuade Sam to let things run their course, now he's trying to get both of the Winchesters to agree to become the vessels of Lucifer and Michael. Like the other trickster episodes, this one is hilarious, but with an underlying drama. Gabriel wants the Winchesters to do what he thinks they have to, and he's going to use every trick in the book to do it. But you can also see in this episode how he's different from all of the other angels, save for Castiel. He is also apart from their plan. He's just the little brother who wants the fighting to stop in any way possible. Like Mystery Spot, this is a fountain of memes and a true classic of the series. What's not to love about Sam and Dean being sucked into a TV show? Number 2, Season 13, Episode 16, Scooby Natural. Unless it's being sucked into the television show. Ruh-roh! As you can tell by a lot of the episodes on this list, I truly love how Supernatural is essentially a series of dares about how far the writers are willing to go. Dean gets a television from someone they've saved, but this television is special and pulls Sam, Dean, and later Castiel into, of all things, the Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode, A Night of Fright is No Delight. For years, people have made jokes about Scooby-Doo and Supernatural. Putting it together seemed perfect for fanfiction. But like I said, if it's perfect for fanfiction, then Supernatural writers aren't above doing it themselves. This is a love letter to Scooby-Doo and brings in actual voice actors from the current productions. Sam, Dean, and Castiel are merged perfectly with the world. Not only do we get to see how our boys would react to being in a Scooby-Doo episode, but we get to see Mystery Incorporated react to being in a Supernatural episode. This episode is absolutely pitch perfect. It's a classic. It is an episode I would, and have, shown to friends who are unfamiliar with Supernatural. It is just plain fun and is the best thing to come out of the later seasons. For anyone who thinks that Supernatural overstayed its welcome, I think this episode is proof that even late in the game, Supernatural could come out with absolutely stellar work. And now, the number 1 on my list. Season 5, Episode 22, Swan Song. This episode brings a stunning conclusion to the classic era of Supernatural and sees the exit of show creator Eric Kripke. If Supernatural had ended here, it would have been a satisfying conclusion. Some more cynical may say that it should have. No matter what you think, it remains a brilliant episode. Knowing that Lucifer has to be caged, Dean agrees to let Sam become the vessel of Lucifer. But Lucifer wrests control, intent on confronting Michael in the final showdown of the apocalypse. Dean, Bobby, and Castiel must work together in order to stop the destruction of humanity by the warring angels. I debated for a while what this list was going to be. Originally, I didn't have this one at the top, but I realized this was the first episode I thought of putting on the list, because it's such an ironclad important episode. This draws to a close the Apocalypse arc, but when it comes down to it, it's not an epic battle of good versus evil. It's about the love of two brothers. Dean has been fighting against his destiny all season, and he has the choice to walk away, Adam taking over as Michael's vessel. But Dean has to save the world and his family. But he doesn't do it by fighting. He does it by allowing Lucifer to bring him to the brink of death against the Impala. It's only when that happens that Sam can get control, and he can throw himself into the cage. Supernatural has done epic battles, but this is the one people go back to, because it's about the familial love that is the hallmark of the series. When we finally say goodbye to this show, that's what's going to stick with us. Not the fight scenes, not the dodgy CGI. It's going to be the relationship between our characters and how they stood together strong against everything that came up against them. So lay your weary heads to rest. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. It certainly took me a while to come up with all of these episodes because there are just so many Supernatural episodes. Please comment below with some of your favorite episodes. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'll be doing more Supernatural videos as well as Star Wars, Star Trek, and many other things. If you want to support me further, you can go to my Patreon where you can get early videos and participate in polls. If you would like to buy me a coffee, you can do that. You can also go to my TeePublic or Redbubble and buy some merchandise. I have lots of cool Supernatural stuff, and I will see you next time. Thanks to these patrons for keeping the lights on around here. I very much appreciate all of the help from you guys. So if you want to keep watching more of my videos, click on my cartoon face over there and you can go directly to my channel and check things out.